Hello and a very warm welcome to GMT with me, Stephen Sacker, in Washington, D.C. Millions of Americans are going to the polls in an election that all sides agree is vital to the future of the country. Voters are choosing their members of Congress, not their president. But it has been a bitter campaign, even by the standards of recent U.S. politics. President Trump, putting himself front and center of the Republican campaign, held rallies in 3 states on Monday, warning his supporters that his agenda could be lost if they do not go out and vote. Former Democratic President Barack Obama tweeted that these midterm elections could be, quote, one of the most important votes of our lifetime. So there is plenty to talk about with my 2 guests here in the studio. Margie Omero is a Democratic pollster with the public affairs practice PSB Research, and Ron Bonjean is a former top spokesman to the Speaker of the House of Representatives and a Republican strategist. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
It seems to me the last few days of intense campaigning have been a battle of messaging, a battle to dominate the agenda. Now, Ron, your guy, President Trump, has wanted to talk about immigration more than anything else. Do you think that, in retrospect, might have been a mistake?
Well, what he's trying to do is fire up the Republican base because he's trying to get them to the polls. You know, I mean, when the economy is going so well and he's keeping the promises that he made, people feel pretty good about that. But what drives the polls is for people to be angry about something, and that is about immigration and illegal immigration at that.
And even if you use, as he appears to have used, an advertisement which the main television networks in the United States regard as too racist to air, you think that's a working strategy?
Well, it seems to have fired up Republicans pretty well. I mean, Democrats have always been fired up. I mean, they've been fired up for a long time to get out there and vote. But Republicans need to get motivated. And when the Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh, when all that nonsense happened, they were. But they needed something else, and that was this.
So, Margie, there you have the president leading his party down a track which is all about a dark, threatening message on immigration. But the Democrats, it seems to me, have been desperate to talk about something else, in particular health care and the future of health care in the United States. Has that worked?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, what the president's been doing is disgraceful, and it hurts his party in the long run, in addition to hurting our overall national discourse. And when there are things that people might want to hear from him that are more positive. On the Democratic side, people are talking about health care because that is something that's universal and transcendent. Everybody has health care challenges. Everybody has family members who have to go to a doctor. Everybody's had to struggle with insurance companies and trying to call to figure out how to pay for things and how your coverage works. And so it is important for Democrats to talk about the issues that really matter to people, and health care is an important example of that.
Do Democrats want American voters to regard this as some sort of referendum on Donald Trump?
You know, I think Trump is obviously a factor. He's historically low approval ratings. He's
to be fair, they're not much lower than Barack Obama's at the same time of his presidency.
He has historically low, like no president. He's never had net approval rating since he's been in office. That is unprecedented. He's never had any sort of honeymoon at all. And he has lost ground with independents, and he has no Democratic support ever. So obviously he plays a role in this, and that's why you have a lot of women candidates running for office and so on, and really fantastic candidates across the board of all kinds on the Democratic side. At the same time, for a lot of these races, we look at national numbers, the national polls. It's individual candidates, individual races, what kind of decisions people are making, the stories people are telling, how they're reaching out to voters. Those kinds of stories are harder to tell at a national level, but they really do make a difference.
It's a good point. It's a vast country, this, and the races have to be judged on their own merits. The issues differ from place to place. But Ron Bonjean, there is a question here that the polls tell us that in all likelihood, the Democrats stand a very good chance of taking the House of Representatives. Now, if that happens, that is a big problem for President Trump pushing his agenda for the next 2 years. But will the Republicans blame Donald Trump if they lose the House of Representatives?
Well, I'll tell you what. I was sitting here 2 years ago at this time, and we thought Republicans were going to lose the presidency, and we actually won. So I think there's a large
What you're saying, polls mean nothing.
Well, I would say after this election, if the Republicans keep the House, there's going to be very serious concern about what polling, how the science of polling. But I would say that Republicans aren't going to blame President Trump. This is a referendum on Trump, though, across America. That's why people are out there voting.
But Margie's point is, if it is a referendum on Trump, we know that Trump's approval ratings consistently are in the low 40%. So you're not going to win on that basis.
I don't, so I would say this. I would say that obviously this is a base election between Republicans and Democrats. Everybody's pretty fired up. I would say if Democrats take the House, and the numbers say that they very well could, if they do, then Donald Trump then will create Nancy Pelosi into an enemy, and thus he'll have two people to run against: Nancy Pelosi, the minority leader of the House, as well as the media, and that will help him with his 2020 re-election.
You know what? There was a dramatic eye roll from Margie as you said that. Because what you are saying is that if the Democrats take the House, there is going to be a new level of toxicity in American politics. And Margie, whether you like it or not, isn't that the truth? The Democrats are going to have a big decision to make about the degree to which, if they take the House, they then use that to go after President Trump.
I think it's important to follow the facts and hold the president or whoever else accountable, and not be a yes man to whatever Trump says in his worst instincts, and that's what he's had so far, and that's what he's had in this Republican Congress. I think. Will
it be good politics for the Democrats to really use their powers in the House, if they win it, to do that oversight, that scrutiny, that investigation?
There are all kinds. Right now, we have a do nothing Congress. There are all kinds of things that will be decision points, and I think the first step is to get through today, which is a long day, before we see what happens next.
That is a very fair point. Ron, you look like you were to dive in at that point.
I would say the Democrats are likely going to try to stop the administration in their tracks by throwing in the wrench on oversight investigations. However, the smart play would be for them to try to create deals with the president and work with moderates in the Senate to get things done like healthcare.
What? Most Americans would probably like to believe that whatever happens in terms of the outcome of today's vote, that there is going to be an effort to find some sort of political cooperation over the next 2 years. I'm not really hearing much certitude on both of your parts that's going to happen.
Look, the one thing that unites us right now is that we're divided, and I think there are lots of Democrats who would be very happy to, work with folks across the aisle on things like infrastructure reform or, job creation and apprenticeship and job training. These kinds of things that we're not hearing anything out of the president. He's running an ad that no network wants to play.
I wish we had more time to continue this debate. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But Margie and Ron, I thank you both very much for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we are